Good morning and welcome to Deep Space Nine Reactions. I'm Fred. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. This week, the episode that I'll be rewatching today from start to finish, with no cuts or anything of that sort, is Babel, one of the earliest. Let's see, it's episode 5 from season 1 of Deep Space Nine. And off the top of my head, in terms of what I remember about this episode, there O'Brien accidentally triggers a booby trap that the Bajorans put in place on the Deep Space Nine when it was Terrak Nor to sabotage the Kardashians. Not the Kardashians, the Cardassians. The Kardashians came later. And often, as far as Kim is concerned. And we all seen the tape. Other things about this episode that I can recall, there is a freight captain who wants to leave the station because essentially a pandemic breaks out. Everyone needs to be quarantined. But the big thing I definitely remember is that it does touch on heavily here. Well, not so much heavily, but the fact that the Bajorans were freedom fighters. There were, as in past prologue, there were Bajorans who were doing things that would seem questionable in hindsight, but when you're fighting for your freedom, fighting against oppression and so forth, by any means necessary, to put it mildly. Um, so yeah, we're going to get into the episode here. So as soon as I can get the headphones worked around here. Alrighty. So again, it's all blurred out, as you know. So again, we're using the DVDs and third and that on top of it. Plus, I do a running commentary. I don't shut up throughout the course of it. Because I get inspired based on what I see and the topics of conversation. Because I'm having a conversation with myself, but I'm also talking to you guys and gals, cats and dogs, pigs and frogs, and everyone in between. All right, and plus, as soon as I start the episode, you can sync it up with your own copy. It's not pretty easy to find. All right, play episode. Closed captioning, we're available. Great makeup on here again. Was just like a random one-shot alien. They're stuck in the airlock. You know what? If Javik was there, he says like just jettison the airlock. That's where you fix it with it empty. And here's the freight captain, who also has a hell of a makeup there with the hair and the face. You're seeing it from the profile here. But he is dude has a hell of a unique look. Granted, you're not really seeing it from this point of perspective because the camera's focused on O'Brien. Give us the reverse gear. There it is. There's his like the beard and everything and the prosthetics. Deep Space Nine went all out in terms of like the makeup and stuff to make it seem like all sorts of alien species were going there, as opposed to how fucking lazy things were on Voyager 90% of the time. O'Brien is just exasperated. Okay, y'all guys got this. You'll get the door open eventually. That's an important. That's a nice little toolbox that that he has. What's Jadzia doing out there? Apparently, there's a gas leak of some size, some kind in her lab. It is interesting though, because I'm trying to think how often was Jadzia's lab seen over the course of the series. It's basically a set that goes away after a certain point in time. Like I sure as hell don't remember it like post season 3. Why are you trying to get the Star Trek from the Argosian sector? The computer knows what you really want, Kira. The thing, quick, somebody give the chief like a power bar or allow him to take a nap or something. Sleep is for the weak. Yeah, that's all he wants. 5 minutes of peace and quiet. That's all he wants. Unfortunately, Cisco needs his coffee. Oh, and it's the one time O'Brien gives Cisco shots, and Cisco does not know how to handle it. It's like, but O'Brien's saying he should have transferred to a cargo drone. But thing is, he couldn't bring Keiko or Molly along, so he knows going to DS9 was the perfect opportunity for him to advance his career. But you see, it's like, okay, the interior of a Jeffries tube type section, which kind of gets used a few different times. There, you do see like the inner workings of the station over the course of the series. Most famously in the what is it? The episode where the minefield goes down in Dominion War, where you have Rom like going to take down the computer. Again, that's like season 6, I believe. O'Brien is at least getting his coffee, black double sweet. Everything seems to be working, but this is the great reveal that it's like, okay, he accidentally triggered something during his repairs. And is you have this little device that looks simple enough. It's sitting in the replicator, and again, it's for like 18 years. 18 years it was sitting in the replicator. No, obviously no one noticed it, which meant that the prior to the Kardashians trashing the station when they left prior to Emissary, that the Bajorans' plan was thwarted somehow. That the Babel trap never went off. I know they call it something else, it's an aphasia disease or something to that effect. Now, one of the things that is quite clever about this episode is like when the disease goes off and is affecting everyone across the station, is like the type of nonsense, verbal nonsense that everyone has to spew to show off the disease. Like maybe it was a little slip of the tongue at first. Now the big question I kind of wonder is, was did everyone get to improv on that, or was it fully scripted? Because if it is, some people have like quite a bit of dialogue to say while under the effects of the aphasia virus. It, it raises some unique questions and things, as I'm saying. Now, obviously, I should skip the intro, but you know what? We're having a conversation here, and I should have called this DS9 Conversations. But this was more of a Micro Pillar created. Rick Berman just gets half the credit because he has an ego. Business is slow at Quarks. It's things get it's unusually quiet at Quarks. Dude, again, great makeup on some of the random aliens. Odo's still not looking anywhere close to how his final form, while Quark is in his final form. No, he calls it something. It's not Polynesian stew. Looks more like chili. No, Quark is not interested in how it tastes. But Quark is being reasonable. If the meal is not to your liking, maybe we can exchange it for something else. And Odo's coming to Quark's aid here, giving like a nerve pinch hold. People wanted to say he gave him a Vulcan nerve pinch. No, it's he applies a nerve hold. Anyone who's seen any amount of wrestling knows that's a nerve hold. Let's realize what was behind me here. It's what I had on the chair behind me here. Knows as is my Quark Spar T-shirt. So yeah, I didn't realize it to just now. But again, I'm not starting the video over. But yeah, Quark. On this one, Odo gives you because I'm still paying attention to the thing. Odo telling Quark that it's like the replicators up on the command level are working, but O'Brien is not getting around to all the replicators as of yet. It's like it's a work in progress still. But this is a clever bit here. It's like, okay, Quark needs to find some information as like what replicators are working on the command level, and he can hack the system. I mean, he has a lot of those. I believe they're called isolinear rods that he can like override the security system to get the information that he wants. And there's a bit later on where Odo's needing to find in some information, and it's revealed that Quark's security access is actually higher than Odo's. Yeah. No, clearly Cisco, he is O'Brien is not all right. He is overworked. And there's a nice callback here. Cisco telling O'Brien to tell Keiko that Jake says she's a wonderful teacher. And the first indication that something's wrong with the chief is like when he's just like the flower units line. So there is some things in terms of timing and spacing, like how much time is passing. There are some leaps and bounds. And how tight are those uniforms on Jadzia and Kira? Don't get me wrong, I appreciate it, but you can basically tell that on Jadzia, she's wearing a girdle underneath that uniform. Because the way she's walking is like she is stiff as hell. Bajorians do have a sense of humor. And Quark is telling a lie that the replicators were repaired. And Quark is flirting outright with Kira here. Like, he is flirting with her. Quark is shameless in that regard, and we can't blame him. Zia, however, is into it. Like, he'll take the pudding. She has that smirk on her face. Again, I'm going to be shameless here. Terry Farrell has such an adorable smirk, like a mischievous, impish, like grin on her face whenever Dax is like crossing a line of sorts or being a little bad. The turbo lift is down again, and the look on O'Brien's face is like Kira may be joking, but O'Brien isn't liking it. Let birds go further loose, maybe. Uh, he's making perfect sense. Nice use there that the two extras sitting across the way are clearly overhearing O'Brien, and then look over to him, and the camera they're actually being cut to show the reaction of extras in the same room looking up and over at the chief to give an indication that there's something is wrong. Again, if this was the next generation, that shot would not exist with any of the extras. Like everyone looking concerned, uh, to different degrees, and that's a detail you don't see on the next generation, and you sure as hell don't see on Voyager half the time. Like everything, like everything is fine with O'Brien. Like in terms of basic, like he's healthy outside of just starting to babble. Now I'm all about babbling. Half the stuff I'm saying during this video that you are watching or listening to is complete nonsense. Claim the Dark Truth, Saltway Links, Complete Strike. I managed to read half of it. Like O'Brien is plays irritated so well, especially when Julian is involved. And aphasia is an actual thing. It's like your mind and everything works correctly, but you just can't communicate. Even if you try writing stuff down or talking, it just doesn't connect the way that some people would assume. Yeah, it's like O'Brien is fine. Otherwise, it's like he does not take a blow to the head in this episode, but I believe, if memory serves me right, in Captain Pursuit, Tosk accidentally kicks O'Brien in the head. That's in the next episode. At least I think, at least that's what I remember. There's a shot of that. Also, let it be known that Bajor has 26-hour days, and thus, when Cisco says, looking back over the last 52 hours, it's not a random number. It's an actual thing based on the time of day, how long it takes for, the day and night cycle on Bajor to complete. And Jadzia being the second person to go down is an interesting choice, because we see O'Brien drink the coffee from the replicator first, then Cisco, but Jadzia is the second main cast member to go down. A few, that's a wonderful display there, but it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, because you don't know what the hell you're supposed to be looking at. Now, I kind of wonder though, and I could probably go on Memory Alpha after the fact to find out how much of the stuff regarding aphasia is true. The different the descriptions and stuff that Bashir is giving, how much of it is actually true and factual. Like, well, obviously in terms of the stroke, and like the triggers for it are kind of like well known, but the other details. Mourn. I'm sorry. It's like anytime Morn, the first time Morn appears on screen, we got to do it like we're saying Norm. Yeah, business is as usual. Central Station operations, and those of us who for the COVID pandemic, we know that certain places were kept open because they provided like some diversions, relief, essential services, and to some extent, Quark's place was fine. Quark's technically would serve the purpose. Yeah, and saying Rom fixed the replicators. The funny thing is, later in this episode, Odo says Rom is an idiot, but we know in hindsight, Rom is a mechanical genius. It's totally possible. There is in Way of the Warrior, beginning of season 4. Quark is looking to defend his bar. He opens a box to take out a disruptor, and Rom left a note for him, says use parts from disruptor to fix replicator. Rom is basically a Ferengi MacGyver, or in terms of being able to take parts from a weapon to fix a replicator. But it's an interesting dynamic in hindsight when you realize, oh, going back this far, that Rom is considered an idiot. This captain wants to get off the station, and it's like a quarantine is in effect. You don't understand, when there's a quarantine effect, dude, you can't leave the station because you could, like, the disease could be airborne. You might be immune, but you could be a carrier. You just don't know. He's like, yeah, play it safe and sorry. Yes, he is concerned about having to get his cargo to where it needs to go because he's carrying something perishable, but there's a logic there. That's a nice little cart that Quark is pushing along there. Uh, Now I wonder what's in a Ferengi Starduster. Like, I don't drink alcohol, but clearly it is some type of cocktail of sorts. And the cart is Odo. An impressive morphing effects. And it's amazing this how far superior Deep Space Nine is in terms of use of special effects in comparison to the Next Generation. You want proof of this? Look up an episode called Acquiel from season 6 of the Next Generation, which has the morphing of a dog into some blob type creature attacking Geordi in that episode, and make note of how terrible that looks in comparison to what was showing up on Deep Space Nine was as relates to Odo's morphs and transformation. Yes, all the food on the station is replicated, which is a problem in its own right. It's right. You kind of will want like an aeroponics bay to have some fresh food on the station. It's kind of an interesting, and this is where I will give Voyager from some credit in terms of can't really use the replicators all the time. It's like you have replicator rations on that show, and it's like and they're eating a lot of as much organic food as possible. So food is being grown in a cargo bay that was converted into aeroponics. There is also uh and the least said about the hedgehog running the having a stranglehold on the galley, and the food and doing terrible things to the human digestive system on Voyager, the better. Of course, I get distracted there talking about the food and stuff, but the virus has been infected. It's airborne. Everyone will be infected. But it's highly adaptable. But again, we saw in terms of like who should have gone down first. Obviously, Cisco is the commander. He is, Avery Brooks is the star. So you can't have him go down second behind O'Brien, who gets like what, fifth or sixth billing in terms of the credits, alphabetically, of course. Kira's in the Jeffrey Tube space. In fact, and the question is, what would they actually call them on the station? She's getting her hand up there to reach around. Yep. Yeah, the question is, who built the device? Oh no, it's not Cardassian sabotage. Yeah, it's like instantly wanting to blame the Kardashians for this. Unfortunately, it's not like the leap to that conclusion makes sense. However, it is not it's not a tactic that the Kardashians would use. However, there is an episode later on where there is a booby trap within the programming of the station that gets triggered, and that is left behind by the Kardashians deliberately in terms of like if the station gets taken over or something. I forget the name of the episode, but I know it exists because it's an episode where Ducat comes to the rescue, like the gloat beams over and gets trapped on the station as well. So it's an interesting little twist there in that episode. I think that's later in season one I think it's a season one or season two episode. Quark is not affected with the aphasia. He just wants to get paid. But Quark is pointing out the Ferengi immune system, and Cisco saying it's like no one could be that devious in terms of Quark trying to get his money. It's like, yeah, Quark clearly is. He is profit motivated. He is a typical good Ferengi to an extent, but not to the extent that Liquidator Brunt from the FCA would approve of, because Quark has a nice streak. Also, Cisco, showing the fatherly concern for Jake. It's like it's nice little moments are kind of key and important there to show the complexity of Cisco's character. There's been a lot said that Jake is more or less an accessory to Cisco to have Cisco be more well rounded, because and the running good joke with Jake is Sir not appearing in this picture because of how many episodes he is not in. Yeah, good thing Kira's not in the room when Bashir makes that deductions. Yeah, but at least the station, but Kira, there being a cut there, and Kira saying, well, the rate of decay says, oh, it's been here a long time. It's been here a long time. So as if, but the way her Nana Visitor's delivery of the lines is kind of clever in a way, where she is reluctantly accepting the proof that the Cardassians are not behind it. Yeah, hope they remember the antidote to something that they created to harm Cardassians, which is affecting everyone else, humans, Bajorans, other miscellaneous alien species, but not Ferengi. It's an interesting little thing there. Like, why would they make a cure for something? This other Bajoran Akira is talking to, named Gallus, ridiculous hair. I'm saying that as someone who has hair that is often unkempt and stuff. But Bashir's Bajoran assistant also not affected and also getting some nice lines, and like O'Brien, he is burning up. They have spritz water all over his face to simulate sweating. And the thing is, like, not a lot of this was thought up on the fly in terms of the dialogue. When you think about it, okay, few lines that will be needed to remember: open way long, open way, and so they okay. So everything is not. If there was more like back and forth, especially background dialogue, and you're hearing stuff from like other people talking and stuff. There, chances are a lot more things would have been improvised. I'm betting. Uh, I know I say now, but I'm thinking off the top of my head. There is a bit of a parallel when you think about it, like original series, early TNG, and now obviously early Deep Space Nine. You got the virus episodes that deliberate that wipe out the crew to various extent. The Naked Now, the Naked Time, and Babel. You know, obviously the Naked Now and the Naked Time are have a stronger parallel since the Naked Now is a remake of the Naked Time, almost a direct sequel of sorts. And Babel goes its own way with the aphasia virus, but it's an interesting trope that of the viruses that come along that how many like true virus focused episodes are there in Star Trek? And there's not. I think most of them end up being on Voyager. Come to think of it, I know there's at least two on in the Next Generation. And the one and the obviously the Naked Now and what the Genesis, that that awful Brendan Braga one from like season 7 TNG. No, I'm willing to bet that a lot of the naming conventions for Deep Space Nine, well, at least when it comes to the Bajorans, was used by the people at BioWare to come up with names for like the Asari and miscellaneous Solarians and such. Very similar sounding names, like Zimrak Ren. You can say that that could easily be the name of a Garrett of a Turian. Odo is here to gloat. Quark is playing with himself at the Dabo table. It's but the reputation, but the revelation here, Odo, despite being in Quark's how many years, he never learned the game. He's observed everything, but he's never learned the game. Quark was willing to teach him. Yeah, like everyone is quite down, and Odo coming along to tell Quark that the entire security force is waylaid, but it's a warning that if anything goes wrong, anything goes missing, he knows who to blame. Here's a question: where the rest of the Ferengi? Because we know there's Nog, there's Rom, and other miscellaneous Ferengi staff. Are they all just hanging out in the quarters? There's a there's a question that most people won't even consider. That you would think that there would be the other Ferengi running around. Bashir is exhausted. He's been working on it nonstop. Replay morning. Fast lunch. Judge have been to let it. Then when Bashir tries to read the screen, contact mind straighten, unsaid negligent. Bashir realizing, oh shoot, he's come down with it too. And and Kira is just looking exasperated, trying to track down anyone that can help with the aphasia virus. Oh, but she does find him serving in the in the North District. Like you don't know recognize the like the liaison to DS9. It's like, oh yes, the old Kardashian mining station. How can I help you? Yeah, the station that the Major has in control of, and that is like kind of a big deal with the Federation being there. And you have the balls to hang up on Kira when she asks for help. Odo is the only person left to help run the station. And kind of makes you wonder those like how much of the state of these various station operations does Odo know? Because we do know that he learns how to he can pilot a runabout. But the question is, does he eventually learn that during the course of the show, off screen, of course, or does he have this knowledge ahead of time based on experience working with the Cardassians and stuff? Kira's like, yeah, it's like he has to go. There's no one else that can leave the station, and she's not going to stand up on Bajor, which makes sense because there's runabouts. You can just beam the dude up. But at this point, we're trying to say is like everybody who's like not affected is probably in their quarters, or sick or waylaid. But the but but it is odd to me that Cisco is one of the last people standing. I want to harp on this. We saw him consume the beverage, the coffee from the replicator there after O'Brien does. So we see that happen. So we one would think he would have been the second one to fall, but he has the plot armor of being the star of the show. Oh, I forgot an episode in the TNG where it's like another virus takes down the crew, Angel One, which is somehow Wesley Crusher's fault. That snowball or something. Yeah, put him on the screen. The dude is looking to get away. He is desperate. He is scared. He is frustrated. He is downright angry. And I just realized he is wearing a sweater of some kind. No, seriously, that is a oh no, it's something that they made for it. It's not a usual sweater. It's like you can see the pattern differences there. But at a glance, it certainly looks like a sweater. An ugly sweater on top of it. Yeah, like dude is in full on panic mode. He yeah, but it's something. But something I said earlier. Yeah, you may be fine, but if you're carrying the violent risk, you can infect others. But clearly, Odo can operate the controls and stuff. And if the ship blows up, or where with thanks to where it's docked on the ship on the station, yeah, take out half the docking ring, and then O'Brien will never get any sleep trying to fix it, trying to repair it single handedly, which he could do with a wrench, like a case of scotch, and a hand tied behind his back. Like the big grin on Kira's face is absolutely perfect. Like, yeah, just checking to see if you're in your office. Like she knows her full on plan. That you're not gonna cut her off. You're not gonna hang up on her. Well, unfortunately, dude, you cannot be returned to your office right now. You're going on a little trip. Things aboard the freighter ship, aboard the freighter ship, aboard that freighter, gone to hell it's gone to hell rather quickly. But again, how much time is between cuts is kind of a question. Like between the individual scenes, like how much things are leaping. And now Cisco goes down. Station personnel who is on the station come to ops right away, and he says like any station personnel that can understand what he's saying. That's kind of like a key thing there. And I want, in that who would it be? It's going to be Quark. Technically, he is station personnel. He runs the bar. He is the community leader as designated by Cisco. But but the thing is though, Quark stays out of the staff meetings. Unlike Neelix and Voyager, who is who is in every damn staff meeting for some damn reason on that show. Yeah, again, I have yeah. Any chance I'm gonna get to rip into Voyager while watching Deep Space Nine, I am gladly going to take. You were in the room. You were the medical assistant. You were there. You saw what he did. You were there. He's not looking for blame to place blame. Man, he needs your help. Get your head out your ass. You're a doctor. You were there. You are our only hope. Like you don't. He's not willing to help. But it's like, but here's Kira. Here's Kira with the big punch. It's like help yourself. In the way he's turning his head away from her with her telling her, her telling him that she's infected, that you're infected too. So you're kind of screwed. Odo sounding a bit panicked and worried. Yeah, and Quark picks up on that too. And Quark, Ferengi don't volunteer. It's like he's gonna be compensated somehow later. We need you to work a transporter. So that's kind of an interesting thing for Quark to say that he was served on a Ferengi freighter for 8 years, and that which again, it's funny to say that because Armin Shimmerman plays a few different Ferengi that appeared on the Next Generation before this. So it's again. So are we going to say that Quark was, on among the Ferengi that were is in the last outpost? No, but it's it's interesting to think that at some point in time, Quark was running around dressed like a little caveman, jumping around doing an interpretive dance. If you go by some of the early interpretations of the Ferengi on the Next Generation, and Bashir was, and the fact that this doctor is just continuing Bashir's work, like Bashir was essentially on the right track, but now Kira is waylaid. It's so smoky. It's so foggy. There's a fire on that ship. Now you got to drag this stupid freighter captain off. Oh, fellow distance. Yes, tell us about it, you idiot. And I'm trying to think. This is going to be one of the few times you actually see Quark doing anything in terms of a technical uh station. It's like you see him in ops here. He gets that shuttle from his cousin Gala and Little Green Men, so he's kind of piloting that. And obviously, he can hack the system with the isolinear walls, rods, but he doesn't. Quark is really kept out of a lot of the technical, like, operation command centers and stuff. It's a fun instance here with Quark, Quark and Odo working together. Like the big worry here, and it's an impressive set that they built here to go through, like, to releasing the clamps and everything. You see the full procedure on how to do it manually. Yeah, one wonderful sequence there. Granted, timeline wise, it probably doesn't match up in terms of the amount of seconds that Quark is saying is passing, but still, everyone's alive while Cisco is napping on a console. About the matter of his hazard pay, the furious look on Odo's face is perfect. But I kind of feel like there should have been a cut back to Quark just being looking all smug for helping out and stuff. Yeah. So Bashir would have come across the Bashir would have come up with the solution eventually. They just needed somebody else. They needed another medical professional to finish the work. That's all. Once and the replicators are down again. Like, really, you're just gonna give them the sitcom ending with, like, the coffee sounding, tasting terrible. Why did I toss the headphones over there? I have no idea. All in all, a very enjoyable episode, and obviously things that inspire topics of conversation, off the various tangents that we went on, uh, or that I went on. I don't know why I said we. But the amount of ground that is covered on this episode to give more history to stuff that was like what the Bajorans were like during the occupation. Yeah, Dr. Remnek is saying, "Oh, he was just in the underground for only 6 months, and then they were captured. He had nothing to do with it." It's like he was like him trying to avoid blame, where it's like you were there for asking for help on the situation. You were the closest thing. You're like you were there. You may have seen something. Plus, 18, 18 plus years have passed, so clearly he would have gained like much medical experience over the course of that time frame. Um, so there is. It does give like Kira a shining moment of like of how she will bend if not break the rules, because granted she used a Federation runabout to kidnap the Dr. Remnak, but it's like she's gonna be given like carte blanche. Like, it's not like she can be court-martialed or anything by Starfleet, and the Bajoran provisional government will be like, okay, well, there was an emergency situation. You can't really complain, since the Bajorans themselves were kind of the cause of the problem. Lots of great moments here. Odo and Quark get a few different scenes to banter back and forth. They actually get three So they actually get like 4 scenes over the together across the episode to really cement like the type of relationship that they have. It's like Odo busting Quark's chops about business being slow, and then when business picks up, Odo is suspicious. So and then he catches Quark in the act when realizing like how's the virus spreading so quickly, and it's like okay, Quark is to blame, and but when the chips are down, they need somebody else up in ops, to keep an eye on things. Quark is the one who steps up. So much to Odo's surprise and chagrin. So this episode does a lot in really laying out like there. I said it before. It's kind of like a Tom and Jerry relationship between the two, where Odo is always chasing Quark, like I'll get you someday, Quark. I'm keeping my eye on you. But at the same time, Odo gives Quark a lot of leeway as well, because for as unscrupulous as Quark is, Odo knows Quark well enough. You're like, okay, you can let Quark slide on some things because there are other things that could be happening that take more precedence. This is also Bashir gets a lot here. Matter of fact, back-to-back episodes for Bashir where he's kind of in the spotlight in terms of like you go with a man alone. He has the with the whole thing with the clone and all the scenes involving the research on the DNA and growing the clone that eventually proves Odo's innocence. In this episode, you see him working a lot in terms of looking for the cure for the aphasia virus in this episode before he's taken out of the picture. So Bashir, despite how one-dimensional his character is, he is getting a lot of time to be in the spotlight, which we can't say the same for Dax. Dax at this point hasn't really gotten a lot to work with, but I believe that's coming. I think 2 or 3 episodes from this point. There is an episode called Dax, who I think raises questions regarding the symbiote and the crimes committed by Dax when it was embodied in another host. And the question is like, should those crimes from that point in time be the consequences of Jadzia, who's like she wasn't even born at the time. It's like that's again my memory trying to think back and pull stuff here for like because I'm that type of Star Trek fan. Alrighty, so I think on that note we'll wrap this up here because again there was a lot to cover, a lot of little sidebars in terms of the topics that was inspired here. Um, So with that said, like, comment, subscribe if you're so inclined. You can of course find me streaming over on Twitch 7 nights a week. At the time of this recording, and by the time it will be up on YouTube, I definitely will be playing Mass Effect Andromeda. Sure, that's a long game. I'm only dedicating 2 nights a week to it. I might also still be playing excuse me, not Phasmophobia, but Borderlands 3, and more likely we may have started at that point in time, Revenge of the Savage Planet. So, but we play a variety of stuff over on the Twitch channel. So as we say here, tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe, have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, folks.